Hi guys, a lady called Roxy phoned into the Ben Kentish show about the plan to raise the UK-wide minimum wage to £15 an hour. Roxy thinks it would be a bad idea because in the past some people didn't make that. They worked a lot and now they do. And just giving people £15 an hour would disincentivize workers to, I don't know, put in a bit of graft. These arguments have been used in the past and this seems to be just another rehashed version. It seems Roxy's position is one of jealousy. Have a listen.
Do you think £15 an hour is a good idea, minimum wage?
No, to be honest.
Tell me why.
I'm in public sector. I'm 34. I've worked since I left university. I've worked for 10 years. I'm still paying off my student loan. And I feel like I've kind of earned wage. I feel like I've kind of got to a place where started on minimum wage and I had to work hard to get to where I am now. If it's just going to be a case of you can earn what I earn doing something that's not as stressful, not as demanding, not as, difficult and not as skilled, then why would people even bother to go to university?
Why would people bother to go to university if you're going to get the minimum wage? And the minimum wage is higher than the minimum wage as it was before. But these arguments could have been used in the past and were used in the past when the minimum wage was £9.50 an hour or when the minimum wage was £8.91 an hour. Well, what's the point in going to university? What's the point in working hard if somebody's going to be just given £8.91 an hour? I had to work years to get up to that stage. This is an argument from jealousy. This is an argument saying, I used to benefit from the minimum wage. I don't want people to benefit from the minimum wage today.
They think, well, do you know what? If the wage is the same, police officers earn less than that. I think they earn something like 25 grand a year for the first year.
But I suppose that their pay would have to go up too, Roxy, of course, because the public sector would also have to pay at that sort of level.
Well, that's assuming that has a knock-on effect, though, because it's assuming that if the minimum wage does go up, then everyone else's wage would have to go up. And where's that money going to come from?
Where is that money going to come from? Do you understand that in a society, businesses need to retain staff and the public sector need to retain staff? So if you want to have police officers, if you want to have firefighters, if you want to have teachers, doctors, nurses, and all of the others that are necessary for society, you need to pay them to retain them. And if inflation is running at 18%, you need to pay them more than what you're currently paying them. Now, some people will leave the sector because they aren't earning enough. Some people will stick with it. But most people, if they can't pay their bills and their job is not paying them enough and they're offered a job somewhere else that pays them more, they're going to jump ship. And if this is happening in the public sector, it's a big problem. So that's why it's necessary for the public sector to retain these staff. And one way of retaining staff is paying them more money. Now, how the government come up with that money is the government's business. Either raising taxes, cutting costs somewhere else, borrowing. That's their business. But your argument should not be we're not going to pay police officers, for example, anymore because it would require the government looking for this money.
The other thing as well, I think, is with small businesses, if they can't afford that minimum wage, what's going to happen is all these businesses are just going to go out of business and we're just going to have more unemployment. So,
once again, these are arguments that were used in the past for any raise in the minimum wage. Oh, well, if you raise the minimum wage to £8.91, all these businesses will close because they can't afford it. Well, the biggest problem facing businesses at the moment is not the minimum wage. It's not wages itself. It's the cost of energy. And you have to think, if a business isn't able to pay people the minimum wage, then there's a problem. That business maybe should not be operating. I know there's a race to the bottom, even with large corporations, where they're trying to pay people much less than the minimum wage. And what happens is, look, what happens if people are paid less than they actually need to survive? well, then they have to rely on the state. They have to rely on taxpayers' money, if you want to put it that way. So people will have to rely on universal credit. So what ends up happening is if people don't earn enough to survive and they can't find another job, then the state will have to top up their income, providing them extra support. In this case, when it comes to universal credit, many people are working and on universal credit because the wages they're earning from working are not enough. Many people are working on universal credit and going to food banks because what they earn from working and from universal credit is not enough. Also, the idea that, okay, we're not going to raise the minimum wage is going to have a knock-on effect on the economy, because if people have less money in their pocket, they're less likely to spend what they can't spend it in the economy. If people have more money in their pocket, they're actually going to boost the economy. And there are examples of this taking place. For example, in the United States, in a number of states, they have raised the minimum wage to $15 an hour. And these states have seen a boost in their economy because people have more money. Yes, some companies, especially smaller ones, may struggle. But if they want to hold on to their staff, they're going to have to find ways to cut costs. Like if your response is, I'm going to close my business because I can't pay my staff an extra few pounds or an extra few dollars an hour, then maybe your business is not viable in the first place. And in many cases, I think in the UK it's different, but for example in the US, not all businesses have to pay the minimum wage. So there are exemptions. But generally, if your business can't pay an extra few pounds or a few dollars, then there's a problem with your business.
It's almost like you're balancing, one thing's going to go up, but other things are then going to go down. I don't think it's the answer, really. And I think it will disgruntle a lot of people, like I say, who've worked hard to be in a skilled paid job where, you know, I've got relatives who are nurses who've worked for years to get to where they are, and they're probably on about £15 an hour. And I think if people can get that just from a minimum wage job, you know, as lovely as it would be, I just don't think the incentive is there then for people to get skilled jobs.
Once again, we have this jealousy. Look, I've worked my arse off and now I'm on £15 an hour. I don't want somebody coming on to earn £15 an hour. But you're completely missing the point of this, because in the past, people said exactly the same thing about £9.50 and £8.91. And did the economy collapse when the minimum wage was increased? No, it didn't. Did a whole range of companies close because they couldn't afford to pay the minimum wage? No, that did not happen. This is, once again, missing the point that if you raise the minimum wage, you raise all boats, because if you have staff that you need to retain, then you're going to have to pay them more. And if we pay people more, they're going to have more money in their pockets and they're going to boost the economy. And when it comes to the public sector, well, it's the job of government to find that money. You know, they can find money for things that are not important, but something like this, I think, is important. Let me know in the comment section, guys, what you think. As always, your comments are greatly appreciated. Thanks a lot.